at some point, this is going to get whittled down. And so we're taking you into the future right now.
How far in the future? That's the question.
That is how, right. Well,
Hopefully soon.
Do you think it happens before the Super Bowl?
If the Lions are still playing, probably not.
Well, okay. So there we go. All right. So let's lead off with Kaitlin or Steven. Your finalists for the Bears coaching search 2025 are.
Yes. Ben Johnson obviously is the top one. You got to go get him. You got to figure it out. I think it's going to be a great fit. And I'm not high on rolling the dice on a first-time head coach. I don't think that's worked for the Bears. But I think in this case, he has been preparing for this moment. He's about the most ready if you're going to roll the dice on a first-time head coach. So, and he can work a long time. Hopefully, if Caleb Williams is the answer in the future in Chicago, and he's going to be here for a decade, then Ben Johnson can grow with him and they can get cooking on all cylinders. I talked to Allen Robinson a couple weeks ago about Ben Johnson, and he said he's detail-oriented. He expects and demands so much in the way that he speaks. He's just a brilliant football mind, and I think to hear that from someone who's also gone through a little bit of the Chicago dysfunction at a point in their career, you could hear A-Rob say, like, listen, this guy is the real deal. Figure out a way to get him down there.
I love A-Rob. Tried to make moves on A-Rob last year at the old combine. Be a part of CHGO. He just didn't want to.
Really?
He didn't bite. I was flirting hard. I was like, this could be a great home for you. He didn't do it. All right, who's number 2 on your list?
Mike McCarthy. And it could be my Packers coverage bias, but I do think Mike is one of one. I think he is very unique in how he sets a culture. He's a very work hard, blue collar, lunch pail guy from Pittsburgh. Just very gritty. And I think the Bears and the Chicago organization as a whole has missed some grit, some old school football
Toughness.
grit.
Yeah.
So I think Mike McCarthy can bring that in. And obviously he's seen it all in terms of football and being a head coach. And I think he also manages personalities in terms of quarterbacks really well. Obviously coaching Aaron Rodgers to get to the point that he was in his career, and then Aaron Rodgers went through such a character arc in Green Bay. Even when I was covering, he was a different quarterback when I started covering him, and then he's a very different quarterback now. But Mike managed that well until it became a stagnant offense, and it just really wasn't clicking anymore. And I mean, December 2nd, I think it was 2018, when Mike was fired, I was leaving Lambeau. They broke the news. We came back to cover it, and I don't necessarily agree with how Mike's time ended there, because I think it was a product of the situation. They wanted a young offensive mind, and that's great. But I think he did a solid job. And going to Dallas, I never really thought that was a great fit, but it worked for a couple of years.
I mean, he had three straight years of 12 wins. That's not nothing.
Pretty good.
There's a lot to dive in there.
Would
McCarthy.
he be mean to Mark in the interview room?
He is very dry, very sarcastic, very I don't want to play games and make jokes with you. He will. He's a very he has
Patrick
a warm
Finley,
personality.
you're on notice.
Yeah. He has a very warm personality outside of the interview room. I remember games you're on the field at Lambeau Field and you're shooting stand-ups, and Mike would be out there with his kids, and you see Dad Mike, and he's just very, I don't know, to me he's Pittsburgh and Wisconsin and Chicago are all kind of the same vibe to me, and I think Mike fits that.
Well, that's actually an interesting side note here. For some reason, from Nagy and especially with Flus, it's moved where the media is bullying the head coach.
Mike will not be bullied.
Yeah, it never used to be like that. Back in the day, I mean, you were, not that I was covering at the time, but the reporters were afraid of Mike Ditka.
Yeah.
And to me, it just feels off. Why are you, you're the head coach of the football team. I'm not saying you should be a jerk to the media, but you shouldn't be on your heels as much as they have been. So it almost and I'm not, which I guess our job on this side will be harder, but I think it's better for the Bears if you have a little sternness up there. He's
a no-nonsense, no BS. He's not going to give you anything that he doesn't have to give you. That's how he interacts with the media, but he doesn't look at this media part is not my job. So also, I think going from Green Bay to Dallas, which is a very unique media market in the sense that, the owner is out there holding press conferences before Mike's even at the podium. Right. I think that creates a different dynamic. So who knows how that has shaped him a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it would be, I'm okay with it. I think they could do worse. I know it's not like the sexy pick.
Did you
But-
like him in Green Bay?
I did.
You
I did. I was
Yeah.
there 2013 through the 2018 when he got fired, and
Okay.
then 2 more years. But yeah, I
I don't even think that we could do worse moniker is fair to him.
don't
'Cause,
think so either.
There's a lot of guys that we're putting that label on. We could do
Mhm.
worse. I think there's a good array of options for the Bears, but I don't think Mike McCarthy actually fits the "we could do worse" label. I've started to come around to the idea that he'd actually be a very good head coach for the Chicago Bears. And of course, we all want Ben Johnson
Right.
as the number one target, but the reality is that's not just up to the Bears. It's also up to Ben Johnson. So I think there is a very good option in Mike McCarthy.
If you're both going down that road, then are you hiring McCarthy if he wants to come here before waiting out Ben Johnson?
Oh.
It's definitely a game.
That's why I'm glad I'm not in that position.
Right? It's a
because,
game of poker because if
yeah.
the Saints
I was going to say
go
if the Saints
hard.
want Mike, then
and
Right.
now it's about
So-
okay, who's going to wait out all the way to Ben? And if Mike says, guys, if the Bears say to Mike, well, hey Mike, we really want to hire you. We think you're one of our top options, but we're going to wait until we can talk to Ben in-person interview. And Mike says, well, I'm not waiting. Well, then
And
the Bears
maybe- yeah.
then the Bears have to make a decision.
Also, that could take you to who's your number 3? I forget.
Todd Monken.
So then you have Monken 3, which is like, okay, well, if I want to wait for number 1,
Yeah.
I'm going to lose number 2. Then how comfortable am I with number 3? How comfortable would you be with your number 3?
I think it would be a solid hire. I
Right.
think, again, you keep it the offensive-minded thing and experienced in the sense of he's been doing it a long time. And, again, he comes from – you have to look at where these guys are coming from and the culture that they're used to and the expectation and the standard of being in Baltimore is pretty high
Right.
to be at the level that they play at. So I think they couldn't do worse.
If you right, and I like Todd Monken. His personality pops instantly. The success that the Ravens are having right now. I mean, whether Lamar gets the MVP or not, it's still impressive. Braggs, let's. Who are yours? The Gregory.
yeah, we'll skim
3?
through because we have similar lists. We can skim through these.
Well,
'cause-
we
Oh, the dark horse.
oh yeah, the Sharkey dark horse. What do we got?
I think it's Cliff. I
Oh.
think don't be surprised if Cliff sneaks in here. I think then they have a guy that obviously knows Caleb quite
Yeah.
well. I don't think Cliff will baby Caleb by any stretch.
That's-
It's just a matter, to me, this is more of Cliff going, do I want to deal with what's going on in Chicago? Do I want to kind of rejuvenate this? Or do I like where I'm at with Jaden Daniels
Right.
and what's going on over there?
I failed twice as a head coach. Do I want to step back in here, or do I just want to hang out and ride this
Right.
Commanders train?
I don't know.
I was for the Cliff thing too, and now Mike has
Yeah.
catapulted ahead because it was like for me it was Ben Johnson, Vrabel, and then I had Cliff, but now Mike has exceeded Cliff.
Who's your 3? Or let's Braggs,
Yeah,
let's see your
so
graphic.
we'll pull up my 3 here. Ben Johnson, number 1. I think we're all going to be similar in that regard. Mike McCarthy, everything I'm starting to understand a little more in depth. I think it makes a lot of sense to have a guy that can build a culture in a locker room, that's had a history of developing great quarterbacks in this league, and also has worked with 2 different organizations that are very successful in 2 very different ownership type structures, and will come into Hallis Hall and be able to maneuver through everything that comes with Hallis Hall and the McCaskies. So I have a lot of faith that Mike McCarthy would be a great hire. And then my number 3 pick is, in looking at it through the Bears lens, I believe Brian Flores will be the 3rd finalist. If it was my finalist,
Yeah.
and this would be my dark horse, would be Marcus Freeman. But that's a 2-way street, and I don't think Marcus Freeman will ultimately say he wants to take an interview with the Bears. But if it was up to the Bears, I do believe Marcus Freeman would be in the top 3 of the finalists. That's how much I think they like him.
Hogue had that 3 months ago that they were interested in Marcus Freeman, and so, but I don't think Marcus Freeman's interested in the Bears.
No,
Right.
I wouldn't be.
Yeah. and Caleb said on the St. Brown podcast, I wouldn't take this job if I was Marcus Freeman. He's got a sweet gig down
Yeah,
at Notre
just
Dame.
stay over there.
Yeah, stay where you're at.
Okay.
Well, and Marcus Freeman, made it life difficult for Caleb Williams last year at Notre Dame.
True story there too.
I like what you said, though, about looking at it through the Bears lens, because I feel like we're not prepared, or maybe we are because we know it's the Bears, but there's going to be some name that's going to come out of nowhere, or we're going to be like, wait, what? And that's going to like inch up the finalist list, and we're all going to have to put our Bears lens on because it's going to shock us. I feel like that's how I felt when they hired Matt Eberflus. I was like, what?
I think Freeman falls in that category, and Hogue, talking about David Shaw yesterday, I got another friend, Phil Atosha, Draft Dr. Phil. He thinks David Shaw, my guy, Draft Dr. Phil.
Okay, Draft Dr. Phil, of course. But my bad.
Come on now.
Yeah.
Get on with the Bears talk.
To Kaitlin's point there, that's how I did my third, because, of course, there's going to be some Bears level hire on there, and his name is Matt Campbell, because he's a Matt, and he's got...
He's a Matt.
He's a Matt. He's a Matt. He's a Matt, and he's got... and his press conferences are horrible, so they're gonna love him. This is the guy. He's there. It's you do have to like, where are they going to go wrong? Why is Matt Campbell here? That makes absolutely no sense. We're talking to literally everyone. I get it, so maybe it's not that big of a deal, but I do slightly worry when this thing goes sideways that the Bears are going to bear, as Lance Briggs would say, and
especially if Ben's off the table, that's when things are going to get wild.
We all silly like the mayor.